Hello everybody and welcome to BWTales print number 41. This week image is a photograph that I took in 2012 at Sun and Fun in Florida. Sun and Fun is a beautiful air show and it's in Lakeland every year, not this year for COVID, but it's really a beautiful air show. And I decided to show you these pictures that, by the way, is made with digital after weeks that I showed you images made with film. This is made with digital, and I decided to show you this picture because I want to talk about patience and the possibility to follow your passions. Aviation is my passion, photography is my primary passion and my job, but aviation is something that I always loved since I was a kid and I flew with my father. And I tried to follow aviation for years, but in Italy it's almost impossible. In USA, something like this is given for granted. This was the day before the show. The airplane arrived. This was a parking lot for some vintage planes, and it was filled up with planes, and was fantastic to see the owners with the passion of their planes, to see people that I love this because the perfection of the painting on the plane, and that show all the love that the owner has for this plane. And this is something normal. You go around and in every small airport you see a lot of airplanes, general aviation airplanes, and you see a lot of activity. But in Italy it's not the same. You can, if you have the passion for aviation, it's really hard to follow it. And that's because in Italy something happened. And by the way, this can happen in a couple of weeks in USA, because in 2 weeks there will be probably the most important elections in the world. There was never so much division in the world between the socialist philosophy and free market philosophy on the other side. And in Italy something happened in the 60s, and that was called socialism. In the 50s aviation was growing, was really every city a new little airport. I know this pretty well. My father was involved in the Aosta airport, and it was a moment of growing. They started to buy new planes, they started to have a lot of people passionate about aviation and starting to fly and all these kind of things. In the city where I live right now, in Cuneo, there was an aero club with 4 single-engine plane like the Cessna 72. It was part of an Aviation, but it's very similar. They had a twin engine, they had an aerobatic airplane, they had a motor glider, these kind of things. And there was a lot of members that rented the plane and flew the plane, and there was activity. But in the 60s, the problem is that in Italy socialism arrived, and it arrived on the form of a lot of protests in the streets, some extremist group as the Red Brigade, that was terrorist group that started to kill people and do these kind of things and do a lot of violence. And Italy started to shift toward socialism. There was the idea to, we have to stay peaceful, so stop with our ideas and give something to the extremists. So they start to, the normal rhetoric of going against the rich and made them pay the fair share. And aviation was one of the victims, because an airplane became the symbol of rich people. It was considered a symbol, and they didn't matter if it was a jet, a luxury jet, or a simple paper cap. But this was one of the victims. Taxes start to go up, and aviation start to be considered a luxury. So they inserted a tax of 36% for buying airplanes, also for the schools, aviation schools, and all those kind of things. And slowly, obviously, aviation disappeared. Right now, in Italy, general aviation is almost dead. There are very few airports that still have a school. For example, in my city, there's no more a flying school. There are very few places, and usually the schools have one or two airplanes and nothing more. And it's become so complex and so costly. A plane that you can rent for $130 in the USA for an hour here is 250, 270 euros, so it's around $300 with the Apple change. And this disappeared, and I was in the middle of that, and my father left the license because it became too costly and time, and I didn't have the possibility to get involved in aviation until later in the USA. And this is something, this is a passion, this is something that you think, yes, I can wake up in the morning, I have a passion, I can follow it. But you can follow it if you are in a free marketplace, if you are in a place where a passion is not considered something that is an extra, that is not essential. And we see all these things right now with the COVID, that this distinction between essential and non-essential, but what is essential for me can be non-essential for others and vice versa. I don't give a damn about playing soccer, so for me it's not essential, but in Italy it's considered essential, so they will never punish playing soccer, but they will punish going to flying, also if at the end of the game it can cost you the same. So that's the thing, and it's kind of scary when you grow up in a place where you realize that it's impossible to have a passion, because everything that is not considered essential by someone will be punished, and will be punished with higher taxes, and will be punished with the regulation. And it's not important the excuse, because at the beginning the excuse was just punish the rich. Then they started to, yeah, but the planes are polluting the world, and so punish again, and all these kind of things. There's always an excuse. Right now the excuse is a virus. So yeah, you can go in a stadium and see a soccer game, but you cannot meet with your family if that is your passion and you are more than 6 people. This is the last stupidity in Italy that came out. So this is the thing. And what is your passion, and what are you ready to sacrifice? I mean, if you're looking at this channel, probably photography is your passion, and if you look at how photography works in a place with a free market like the USA, it's very easy. If you look at how it works in Italy, it's much more complex. And the first difference is that only just to buy a camera here the cost is at least 22% more, because there's a sale tax of VAT actually of 22%. So if you can afford $1,000 camera in the USA, here you need to have $1,200 or a little bit more, because with the euro it's a little bit more. But so this is the problem. And if you made a mistake to finish under socialism, sometimes it seems some promises seems good and all these kind of things, but at the end you discover that everything that you love and you can do is gone. And I look at this and I think, yes, this was supposed to be my life. This was supposed to be another things apart from photography that I wanted really to follow. And it's something that I cannot follow until I'm in another place. I had the opportunity to fly and all these kind of things when I was in the USA, but here in Italy it's became impossible, and it became impossible because of socialism. Because when you give to someone the power to decide what is a luxury and what is essential, that is gone. I remember when I was a kid, we were used to dream about a nice car. In Italy we have sport cars and all these kind of things, but that's the same. If you want to have a car with an engine that is more than 4 cylinders and 2 liters of volume, you're screwed, because the taxes on that are so high that only very rich people or people not paying the taxes. We have right now a lot of people from other places that they can register. For example, from Romania, they can register the car in Romania, and so they can go around with nice cars. But that's become crazy. Right now, if you are passionate, for example, about cars, you can find beautiful, beautiful big cars. Almost they give you the cars almost for free, because there's no market for that car in the kind of cars in the used market, because with all the taxes and things, no people can afford them. So you can have a friend that says you, I have a 10-year-old beautiful car that is 4 liters, 12 cylinders, and this kind of things, and you say, no, I don't want it, don't give me as a gift, I don't want it, because it would be too much expensive to maintain. Not for the gas, that's something that is if you don't drive it much, it's not a problem, but for the taxes that every year you have to pay, because that's a luxury object, and everything become a luxury. And in the years I saw things that were considered essential before that became a luxury, and every passion, everything that is not just survival, is becoming more and more punished, and more taxed, and more not affordable. And that's the problem. And when you decide, sometime you look at the philosophies and you imagine some results and utopistic realities sometime, but you look at them and you think, yeah, that can be good, but think about your passion. Think about what is your passion, and look if that passion can go on in the same way in places like Venezuela, or in places like Russia at the time, or China, or all these places that are governed by socialism, and Cuba, for example. So that's the thing, is that we sometimes don't think about it, but when we decide the vote, we are deciding the shape of the future, also in the small things. The fun fact is that they were thinking, okay, if we tax airplanes are just for the rich, but in a place like the airport here in my city, there was a mechanic that was working, a couple of mechanics. There were the restaurant that had people working in there. There were a lot of people working around that airport. There are all jobs that are gone. And I was in the USA years ago, and I was talking with a guy at an airport, and this guy was working at the airport restaurant just as a waiter, and he was for me it's fantastic, because I love aviation. I want to become a pilot, so I meet a lot of pilots, and I can have some free time with them on the plane, and I can go on and get my pilot license and start to become a pilot as a profession. And that was normal. This guy was not a rich one. He was just someone with a passion, that was able to follow the passion. In a place like Italy, that situation is impossible. There are no more airports for general aviation with traffic and with enough to justify a restaurant, and so nobody will be able to just become a waiter and go on with that. And these all because someone used the rhetoric of the fair share to pay, and decided that aviation was a symbol of wealth. And by the way, it was aviation and became everything else. Boats are the same things here, and it's an absurdity, because we are the country with most water, and that's as absolutely impossible thanks for taxes and things, this kind of things, to have a boat in Italy is really something really now became for the rich. And by the way, the rich, they don't care. Still they can fly and do this kind of things. But all the middle class and all the lower class, it became excluded by all the activities that are just a passion. And so, I don't know, this week for me is a strange week because Italy is getting back to some restrictions for COVID. Our ugly government is continuing with its stupidity in the ruling and all these kind of things. And so I'm looking at the future election in the USA, and I think this will be the most important election. And if the USA will go to socialism, everything like this will disappear. And in Italy, it took 10 years to disappear. Since the socialism triumphed as a mentality, 10, 15 years, and aviation, general aviation, almost disappeared. And everything else is like that. If I look around and here in Italy, and I think at everything that I dreamed to do when I was a kid, and it was something that was possible, that was accessible by everybody without problems, there's almost nothing. It's all gone. And it's not just all gone this, but the little shop that sells beautiful products, very good products, for example, I don't know, the cheese from the Alps and these kind of things, they disappeared because it became very costly. When you have taxes that arrive at 80% or more, if you need to have really a huge volume to justify a company or something. So the small shop disappeared. We just now have the big chains, and everything is disappearing because socialism. Every pleasure, everything that is a way to pursue your happiness, that is disappearing. And that is disappearing because the socialist mentality is to punish pleasure, is to punish everything that is not essential and is not something for the party members, but for all the other people. If you like something, be sure it will disappear. It had been like this in every places where socialism arrived. And Italy, we didn't had a very strong form of socialism. We are not Venezuela. We are not these kind of places. But still, is a place where every pleasure disappeared. The price of the cappuccino and brioche at the bar at 10 in the mid-morning, it's become so high that was an habit and the pleasure of a lot of people. Now a lot of people don't do that anymore. And this because with taxes and with the idea of socialism, they didn't punish the wealth, but the wealth started as an airplane and arrived at, yes, I go to the bar to get a cappuccino in the mid-morning. You must be wealthy or you get the coffee at home. So that's the problem, and that's the things that this image made me think. It's something that I really hope to see again. Beautiful things like the Sun and Fun or Oshkosh or the simple small airport in any town where you sit there and see planes go and go, and you see a lot of airplanes parked there. You see hundreds of airplanes, general aviation airplanes, while in Italy here, if you see 2 airplanes in a day taking off and landing, is already a lot. And so I hope that the choice will be the right one in 2 weeks, and this will continue to exist, and will continue to exist in the USA and in the world, because we are really one step away from losing all this, and this would be really, really sad. So this is just my meditation for the week, and yes, I decided to go political because something that it worked here in the 60s and is working right in the world is that with this boycotting people that don't think like socialists, or wars to arrive at commit violence against them. We can see right now people on the street that they risk. People were attacked just because they have the bumper sticker on their car or things like this. So, or just they had the wrong color of the skin. But I decided, yes, I know that is probably not the best choice in a YouTube channel, because that means that probably I will lose 50% of the followers. But I really don't care if you are not able to respect a civil expressed idea, and you are not able to accept that people can express their ideas, that I don't care if you stop to follow me. So that was the choice, and yes, I went political, and I really hope that in 2 weeks socialism will not triumph, because in that case we will be screwed and I can forget my passion for aviation. So thank you for watching. As usual, if you want to see the original image, go to the link down there in the description. You will go to my website and you can check the original image and see it much better than here in the video. While you are there, you can subscribe to my newsletter. It's a weekly newsletter, so not a lot of mail arriving, and it arrives only if I do something new. While you're here, if you enjoyed the video, please put a like. If you didn't like it, put a dislike, but tell me why, and comment so I can improve and we can eventually discuss and go on. This said, thank you again for watching. Keep creative, stay free, and this is the most important thing, and have a lot of fun. Thank you for watching.